Welcome to the Whole Food Vegan Podcast.
Exciting vegan food, no crap, no agenda.
Helping you enjoy a wonderfully varied, tasty, easy to prepare and nutritious whole food plant-based diet.
Simple tip, easy recipes and helpful hints on how to get more enticing vegan meals into your diet. Usually recorded after a bottle of Merlot on a Friday night.
Okay, so welcome to the Whole Food Vegan Podcast. My name is Mark.
Hi, I'm Sue.
Hi, and this is for the first time we are recording this podcast live on Instagram. So we're doing an Instagram live. So if you ever want to watch us recording this and making live mistakes and errors, follow us on Instagram and you'll see when we go live. And we're also doing these now as videos as well, which we'll be uploading to probably a new YouTube channel once we get this sort of up and running and going. But as ever, the podcast will stay live, audio only.
And we're only drinking water today, which is rare in itself, but hey,
it is
only
drink
water. It's good for you.
So what we thought we would do this time is to do a podcast focused around Christmas, and we're going to look at a few different areas. We're going to look at communication.
Yeah, and we're going to look at how you can make it easier for people who you're staying with, perhaps, or if you're someone who's got vegans coming to stay with you for the first time, no idea what to do, give you some advice.
Yep, we're going to look at main meals.
All sorts of things. I mean, stuff that we've covered before, so desserts, alcohol, all sorts of stuff like that, but just kind of condense it all into how it might affect you at Christmas. And also a little bit about how you can communicate better with people, really just to sort of explain to them, things like cross-contamination. They just wouldn't really normally understand that. So just a whole load of different stuff that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, buffets, staying out and eating out. And if you're watching on the videos, you will be able to see to our right hand side, you can see kind of what we're going to talk about, which gives you sort of a structure to each of the videos and the podcasts. Sorry?
That way.
Yeah, I know. It's the first time we're using video on here, almost like left or right. Yeah. It's all strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be to our right as you are looking at the screen. So let's get cracking. Let's look at communication. And I think this was about being honest with our communication with people that we possibly are going to have a meal with, and letting them know that actually the bulk of what they eat is vegan. If a bit of thought goes into the way it's cooked,
turkey or goose.
No, but if you look at but the all the stuff that goes around that, it's only the turkey or the goose potentially that isn't vegan. All of the extra bits, or all of the veg, can be made vegan.
Yeah.
But what people have a tendency to do is cook things in things like goose fat, which would instantly render the stuffing, the roast potatoes, not vegan.
Yeah.
So if you can have a communication with someone and say, could you not use goose fat, and then we can all join in and share the bulk of the same meal.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not that difficult. We've said this all the way along. If you just put a little bit of thought into it, it can actually be really easy. So things like, when you're pre-prepping the vegetables, just make sure that you've got all the veg prepped and you're not just you're going to just chuck it all in the pan with the goose or the turkey, whatever. Just making sure that you're going to actually have enough saucepans to cook things, enough dishes, enough serving spoons as well, because that's another thing that happens is people run out of serving implements and people start stabbing it with their own fork. And if you're eating with a load of meat eaters or vegetarians and you don't want that, or you can't have that for whatever reason, things like that are really things that you can communicate about beforehand. So it's really about giving plenty of notice, giving plenty of suggestions if people ask for them, just to make it easier for the person who's cooking, and even just get in there and cook yourself. Just offer to do some of it. Just say, well, I'll do some of the veg, or I'll make the mashed potato.
Well, that's another one. Is mashed potato is to perhaps not use butter, dairy butter, and dairy milk, and to substitute it, and no one would know. The same with bread sauce. So bread sauce classically would be made with a bit of butter in it, but primarily milk. That can be substituted with a soy milk, and again, no one would know. Making gravy, very often people will take the scrapings out the bottom of the sort of the pan of perhaps the chicken or the goose, or the turkey, whatever they've cooked, and drip that into the gravy. Ask them not to do that,
Yeah.
and make sure that the gravy granules, if you use granules, are vegan. So it's some slight adjustments to the way people cook, and if you make people aware, they don't have to do separate roast potatoes, a separate bread sauce, a separate gravy, and then you're sharing a Christmas meal. You're sharing it together,
Yeah.
and it's just a few things that you can have separately and they can have separately.
Yeah, and things like pigs in blankets, traditional Christmas things that you wouldn't perhaps have at any other time of year. We've had a brilliant recipe that we can't find now, but it's a really good recipe for pigs in blankets, which is basically using mini sausages that you can either buy or make, and wrapping them in carrot bacon. So that sounds a bit random, but you basically have very thin strips, mandolin strips of carrot, and you marinate it in a kind of smoky, bacony type marinade that you've made up with soy sauce, maple syrup, liquid smoke, paprika, that kind of thing. Just leave it in there to soak, and then you can wrap it around your sausages, cocktail stick, hold it all together, and cook them. Really, really nice. And a bit different, and maybe sometimes it's good to be a bit different. That's the other thing, is if you're having that conversation with people that you're going to be eating with, you're going to get all those questions. It always happens. How are you going to manage without having bacon? And how are you going to get enough protein? Look at last week's episode. So it's worth having those kind of things ready in your head, just to go, well, this is a good idea. Why don't we all do this and do a bit for the environment? Or why don't you just try one meal and just see if you can actually, necessarily even notice the differences? I'm sure some people won't. So like we're saying, if your veggies cook separately, nothing's cross-contaminated, then you're probably not even going to notice that much.
No. And so moving, as we're talking about the main meal, one of the nicest dishes we've ever had is a Bosch mushroom Wellington.
Oh yeah, that's
and
good.
I'll post a link to that. I originally saw this as one of the Bosch when they first started out, when they were making videos, and how they got spotted and noticed. So Bosch do an incredible mushroom Wellington that we've made. It does take a bit of time. It just takes a bit of time.
Yeah,
but it's a fabulously delicious recipe. It's so good, and what's good about it is that it's a centerpiece on the table as well. It looks really good. It's like a little bit of a party piece. So yeah, that's a real good one.
And like we said when we've made it before, you can cut corners. You can buy ready-made pastry that's vegan. That's quite easy. Things like that. It doesn't have to be a major thing. Or if you're really stuck, just get someone to nip to the supermarket and get some vegan sausages, or just even what we've done quite often is get a block of tofu and just roast the tofu in a marinade in the oven. It's really easy, tastes delicious, and of course it's really
you could make a Wellington out of the tofu. You could get some vegan pastry, which is commonly available, wrap the tofu, or marinate the tofu first, wrap it in pastry, and again you've got something that not only tastes really good, but is actually a centerpiece as well. And I bet you would get people that are having turkey say, hey, I really would like to try some of your mushroom Wellington, and the answer is no.
And things like where we've said before about making dauphinoise potatoes and things like that, that is a centerpiece in itself. Or you could make things like the supermarkets at the moment are getting all their vegan Christmas ranges in, and I'm always looking and seeing what they're doing. Things like a festive wreath made out of puff pastry with sort of sausage meat made out of minced vegetables and minced nuts and cooked in a nice sauce in the middle. Really, really decorative, really nice. It's not that you have to have a poor substitute. There's always some really nice vegan food out there. So yeah, my advice is go and have a look around the supermarket, see what you can copy, and have a go. Be a member.
And nut roasts. So we've put recipes on our website before, and I'll link to them in the show notes. For nut roasts, or even, I know it's not whole food, which is primarily what we're about, but there are some really good dried nut roasts that we've bought and had before.
All you need to do is add water.
Exactly. And so if you're going to someone else's house for Christmas dinner, even just taking one of those, they're not mega expensive, and they are, as you say, hot water. Chuck it in the oven for a half hour, 40 minutes, whatever it is, and they are really good.
But you can make all those things yourself. You can make them and take them to someone's house and say, I want to make it easy for you. I've brought some things that I've already made that might help out, and you can eat it cold. It's really nice cold the next day for Boxing Day dinner.
Oh yeah, Boxing Day dinner, one of my favourites.
So apart from kind of things like stuffing, which you can get quite easily, there tend to be a lot of the things at the table are going to be vegan. Probably the exceptions are the pigs in blankets and the bread sauce, which we've already talked about, and the gravy. So even if you just turn up with some of those things, you're halfway there.
and have the communication beforehand so that they're not pre-roasting
Yeah.
everything in goose fat before you turn up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's worth talking about cross-contamination because it's something that a lot of people don't even think about. So, for example, if you've got, say you've got a separate load of potatoes that the host has done separately for you, and then people will kind of eat them with tools that they've used in their own dish or, in another dish that's...
Or they serve up a load of turkey and then you put it into the potatoes.
Yeah, so it's things like that, making people aware. Things like, I don't know, if you need a milk substitute, ask them, have they got soy milk or rice milk or whatever, can I bring that to make it easy for you? But it's one of those things that people stir the spoon of the coffee with the milk in and then stir yours with just like, oh, thanks.
But I think that again comes back to communication and just letting people know, please don't mix the spoons or the serving.
Yeah, so it can be made easy. So definitely it's not that difficult. So if you've got somebody coming for dinner who's vegan, don't panic. Ask them to help you, and they'll be probably more than willing to give you some advice or even to bring some of the stuff with them.
Wonderful. So desserts, we don't have anything on our main meal.
Yeah,
desserts.
Big part of Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, one of the suggestions you made was Aquafaba chocolate mousse, which is so lovely.
And you don't always want a massive dessert at Christmas. I mean, you do.
So just explain what Aquafaba is.
So for those that don't know, Aquafaba is the juice that you get out of chickpeas that have been basically canned in water, and you just drain the chickpeas, and usually people throw away the Aquafaba, which is the juice that's left. And it's from any bean you can use it, but it's best from chickpeas, and it's basically whippable. So you can whip it and mix it with things. So you can make chocolate mousse, you can make it into meringues because it whips.
I'm not sure you could whip it by hand,
no,
could you?
You
do need a machine.
Yeah. But it does thicken and it becomes this really nice sort of meringue type thing as well, which you can bake just like ordinary meringues, and people wouldn't know the difference. So really good for things like baked Alaska, things like also chocolate puddings and syrup sponge. I've got some amazing recipes for syrup sponge and things like that you can make. And of course, if you want to make Christmas pudding and all those kind of things and just veganize it, you can. Personally, I don't do Christmas pudding and currants and raisins. I just don't like them. But chocolate cake, chocolate Yule log, definitely, that's a big one on my list. And again, all the supermarkets this year are making them because they know that there's more vegans out there and people are doing it. So you don't have to buy a supermarket version. You might want to just to make life easy, but you can certainly make all those things yourself.
And cheesecakes made with vegan spreadable cheese. Again, really easy things that you can take.
Yeah, really simple. I mean, you can, to be fair, now buy a lot of these things and have them mail ordered to you as well. So if you're really running short on time and you don't want to carry it, perhaps you've got to use public transport, or you just haven't got enough facilities to carry it yourself, you can order those things and have them sent to people's houses, which is a bit bonkers, but it is possible.
So are you telling me then that vegans don't have to have fruit salad?
Oh my God, please don't get me started on that. No. And cheese and biscuits is another one, coming to that. Cheese and biscuits, of course you can make loads of vegan cheese, and we've told you some of these recipes. You can also buy cheese boards now that are vegan, so you can do a mail order from La Fromagerie, we talked about before, but even your local supermarket will have a selection of cheeses. But it's the biscuits. So we've been caught out a couple of times, haven't we, with buying crackers, and they've got honey in. So I don't eat honey, and I have opened a packet of sort of selection box of biscuits. I've skimmed the back of the label to make sure there's no milk or eggs or anything like that, and got home and realised it's got honey in.
Yeah.
So the key thing about that for me is honey isn't an allergen, so it's not highlighted in bold, whereas milk and eggs are. So when I read a skim label in a supermarket and I just read the back of it, I don't look out for honey, which I should do. So that's exactly what's happened to us with crackers and things like that before.
So alcohol. We have done a whole episode on alcohol.
And it does pop up quite often in this
It does,
podcast.
in ours, yeah, it does. But so it's really to be aware if you're having wine around the dinner table at Christmas, or perhaps a beer, that not all wine and beer is vegan. And beer does seem to be a bit better at labelling as to whether it's vegan or not, but because there are no industry standards, some of them label it as vegan, some of them are not.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes beer and wine non-vegan is they both use often isinglass finings, which is made from the swim bladder of a sturgeon.
Or eggs.
Or milk is also used in wine, some of the red wines, to clear it. So it is worth just checking with wherever you buy the wine from, just to make sure 100% sure that it is vegan.
And if you're in doubt, just contact the manufacturer, look on their website and see. I mean, a lot of the big manufacturers now are labeling it, but also a lot of the smaller manufacturers are realizing there's a real niche industry and labeling it as well. So if you can't see it and it's not obvious, get in touch with them and ask them, because the more people that ask, the more they will be aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we also have talked a little bit about buffet food, but I think it's worth going over that as well, because we mentioned Boxing Day, and that tends to be when a lot of people have buffets. Or it might be that you've been invited to someone's house for a Christmas drink and they've done some nibbles and things. So there's always loads of options that you can take for buffet food and for snacks and things like that. So very often, again, if you're short on time and you haven't got time to make it, go to supermarket and have a look. Things like pakoras and samosas and falafel and hummus, all those kind of things, they're all usually vegan by accident. Things like perhaps taking some really nice bread and some vegan cheese, and then things that are really simple, and crisps are generally okay, biscuits, that kind of stuff. But party food like nuts and all sorts of things. You can even make things out of pastry and make little quiches if you want to. Sausage rolls, that's a big one. Again, just make some pastry, roll up some sausages, or if you haven't got any, just grind up some nuts and vegetables and cook it and put it in the middle and roll it up and cook it like that. Things like, roulades and, again, nut roasts, all those kind of things. Really simple stuff. Just, what you would normally eat at home, just take to someone's house.
Yeah, and make sure everything that you take is clearly labelled, and possibly take some extra labels in case the people that you've gone to, if you're visiting, haven't got any labels, and then you can label stuff as so that not to eat it.
And again, going back to cross-contamination, it's things like having enough utensils so that people have got a utensil in the dish, that they don't need to cross-contaminate it by picking it up with something that they've already picked up a sausage with, or a slice of meat or something like that. Just make it really easy for people, because most people don't think about it. You know what it's like when you had a couple of shandies. It's kind of, all that stuff goes out the window. So make it easy for people who might not understand how important it is. Because what you don't want to do at a party or something like that is get into a whole conversation about why you're vegan and how awful it is. That's not what I'm at a party for. So drink, food, having a good time, that's the kind of party you want.
Definitely.
So yeah, again, make it easy if you're going to take some food, just make it really clearly labelled, make sure there's enough utensils, and make sure even if there's other people going who've got dietary needs, sometimes what you can do is actually cover two bases. So say your friend is gluten-free and you're vegan, just say, well, I'll bring something vegan and gluten-free, and then they can do the same, and you'll both end up with two different dishes.
And offer to help shop, offer to be part of the process as well, help people, because non-vegans are used to, or often not used to, shopping like a vegan does, which is looking at and reading the labels of absolutely everything you pick up. So being part of the shopping process and just helping out, I think, is a good tip.
Yeah, but I think, again, going back to the whole food aspect of it, you're going to get a better nutritional balance if you actually cook the stuff yourself, because very often if you go to a party where there is all pre-packaged food, it'll be very processed, probably quite low in nutrients. Yes, you'll get a fruit salad, and yes, you'll get a bowl of salad, and you might get some crudités and some hummus. But if you want actually something that's more nutritionally balanced, you want to make your own pasties, or you want to make, something a bit more extravagant, make it and take it so you're getting all the nutrients you need.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so going on to staying at people's houses, we've already mentioned trying to make it easy for hosts. So people can go into a bit of a panic when they think there's a vegan coming to stay. What am I going to do? Again, offer to help, offer to do some shopping, offer to take some stuff. Say, what can I bring that you haven't got? And again, this is where people don't think about things like spread. So they know you don't take butter, but they might have sunflower spread that's got buttermilk in it.
Yeah.
So do you need to bring some margarine? Do you need to bring some soy milk? Do you need to bring some cashew cream or some coconut cream or something like that? A box of ice cream. There's loads of stuff that you can do that's really helpful, and take it and make it easier for both of you.
And all the other kind of sweet treats that you might want to have, biscuits, chocolates.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you take the ones that are, things like accidentally vegan things, hobnobs, bourbon biscuits,
crisps.
Yeah, crisps. all accidentally vegan.
And I think, again, the more people do it, and the more it becomes norm. You're not going to get so much of that. Oh, why are you vegan? I can't stand all that. That's not what we're doing here. We're not trying to get people to be vegan. We're just eating a vegan diet because it's right for us. And very often people are willing to try stuff, and it's a good opportunity to, take extra and encourage people to give it a go.
Yeah.
Kind of, but burst some of those myths about it and stereotypes that people have in their brain about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also we should mention chocolate advent calendars in this bit as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a massive industry at the moment of chocolate advent calendars. I've seen about 6 different manufacturers out there doing chocolate advent calendars, which is fantastic. So again, it used to be that you couldn't get them, and we used to make chocolates for each other at Christmas as well. But you can actually buy a whole load of advent calendars now, and I noticed in the supermarket they're actually doing it at the same price as the normal ones.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Good.
No shortage. Yeah. So another thing that might happen is you might go to eat out with friends or family over Christmas, and as we've said before, there's loads of tips that we can give you on that, isn't there?
Of eating out. Yeah, I mean, we talk about this quite a lot. I know this is the Whole Food Vegan podcast, but we do go out and we do eat some non-whole foods. And I think one of the biggest tip that we can give, and this is what we always say, is to ring ahead and phone wherever you're going, phone in advance, and just make sure that they can cope with a vegan diet, and just ask if you can have a look at the menu online and then question them and say, well, hang on a minute, you've got that, but why is that not vegan, or why is that not vegan, or could you make this vegan if with a bit of notice, please.
And I think also it depends whether you've got a cook or a chef. So a chef would more than likely be very willing to make something up for you, whereas a cook is probably just going to cook what's already there, and it's going to freak them out if you kind of turn up and go, well, I can't eat anything on the menu. So again, big chains are really good, but we've talked about this in other episodes, so if you haven't already heard, go back and listen again. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and the last thing that we've got about eating out is it kind of links back into what we were talking about earlier about cross-contaminating. So as an example, we went out for dinner last night, 6 of us went out, where there was 2 vegans, 1 gluten-free, and 3 other meat eaters. So and we were sharing food, and it's what we did was we put a serving spoon in that individual dish and just said to people, please don't mix that up. That serving spoon that we've put with that dish is only to be used for serving that dish. And then everyone is happy. The vegans know that it's not contaminated. The gluten-free know it's not contaminated.
And we did have a lot of communication with the restaurant as well.
We did.
And made sure. So,
which is, as we always do.
Yeah, we always do. You have to be quite vocal sometimes and just remind different people. But yeah, it was absolutely delicious. And we had a few glasses of wine as well.
We did.
Never a bad thing on a Friday night. Saturday night even. Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about is what we did last week. So we went to Veg Fest, didn't we?
We did. Veg Fest is brilliant. We went just before lockdown, and I don't even know if they've had them since then. Had them again. So Veg Fest is held at Kensington Olympia, and really big show. I don't know how many stalls were there. Loads. I don't know, what did you say, 60, 70
Probably,
different stalls?
Yeah.
A lot of sort of environmental awareness and sort of holistic health. And a lot of stalls doing classic things, sort of like vegan belts, vegan
donuts.
Handbags, donuts,
really
shoes. There were all sorts of things, and obviously a lot of food. And there were a lot of educational talks looking at vegan businesses, setting and starting up, running vegan businesses, health, getting protein, getting calcium. It was really good, and it was £10, was it?
£10 for the day, but you had buy one get one free. So we brought our ticket long enough in advance that we could get in, one of us free. So it cost us £10 to get in for the pair of us, and we were there all day, and it was really, really good. Another thing which I found really fascinating was that all of the sort of around the outside of the Olympia sort of main hall that we were in, there were sort of Olympia had its own little takeaway unit,
sandwich stall things,
sandwiches, and all of the stuff in there was vegan. So whether that was something that they put on especially that day, or if it's normally like that as kind of an environmental thing, I don't know, but it was just fantastic that everywhere you went everything was vegan. It was just like liberating to just go there and just be able to pick up
look, I can choose any one of these sandwiches.
And we had a lot of food. We had what do we have at lunchtime? We had Vietnamese, didn't we?
No, Ethiopian.
Ethiopian. That was really nice.
Stew.
It was really amazing. And we had ice cream, and then we had vegan donuts, then we had chocolate, and then we had cakes, I think, and drinks, and anything you could think of. There was a vegan alternative there. Marshmallows, the whole works. It was really, really good. So really recommend that, mainly because there are so many talks as well. I think they had 4 different areas where they were doing talks, didn't they?
Yeah.
All day. There was probably 100 different talks, all sorts of stuff, everything from running a vegan podcast to
Vegan rugby players.
Yeah, met the
vegan bodybuilders.
Yeah. And just people talking about cooking. So there were demonstrations, all sorts of stuff. So if you're new to this or you want to know more, definitely recommend going to that every year.
Definitely.
So next time, what are we going to talk about?
We are going to look at something that we both love and is brilliant going into the winter, which is using a slow cooker.
I love my slow cooker. So you've got a massive family size one, haven't you?
Yeah.
And mine's a tiny.
Well, no, it's a massive family size one, but it's usually enough for one. But my version of one.
That's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to keep half of it for the next day.
Okay. Is that how? Oh, well,
yeah.
That's it.
But slow cookers, when people think slow cookers, they just think, oh, it's just chili or curry. But actually, you can do a lot with a slow cooker. You can make soups in it. You can make desserts in it. You can make all sorts of stuff.
Cakes, brownies.
Yeah, I make
jacket
potato quite a lot in slow cooker. That's really good because it's quite low on energy use.
Yep.
So that's the subject next week or next time we do the podcast. It might not be next week. It's got a bit of a hectic week coming up. But yeah, so if you've got any questions, we're going to be hanging around for a little bit and answering questions on Instagram. So thanks for joining us today and see you next time.
Bye.
Cheers.